This conference will now be recorded.
One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for coming. So these work sessions are less formal than the regular board meetings, and sometimes it's just for us to talk about certain things without necessarily taking any action on it on this particular evening. So the main topic that I would want to talk about is the summer youth program, but we're going to vamp for a few minutes and talk about a few other things before we get talk on that. So give maybe Amy Langford a chance to come in. So first thing, Tim had some questions, I think, about the exemption stuff. Go ahead.
Property tax.
Yeah.
So where are we now? And my understanding is the change that we're looking to make would be exempt Social Security income from income, and
yes,
it wouldn't count towards the income.
Right. So that schedule that's put in there, I got that from the county. That was adopted by the board in 2023. So there's a copy of that email from Hannah at the county. So each town can set what it would like to do in terms of giving senior citizens an exemption from local property taxes based on their income. And when a couple weeks ago we had Suzanne talk to the board about, could we revisit that? One of the ways, Wilmington is the second. Many other towns don't stop granting exemptions at a lower income threshold than Wilmington does. Wilmington adopted a progressive scale, and the only other town in the county that has, you can get an exemption for $35,000 or $37,000 per year is North Elba. So Wilmington already adopted a pretty progressive scale for allowing higher income people to get some benefit of the exemption. I don't like to call it higher income, but that's the income that we allow. So one of the things we can do is we can also adopt, and this is something North Elba did, is the people who are like on the margins, they come in with their income tax forms and stuff like that, and they're filling out their exemptions. If we subtract their Social Security income from that, then they'll fall into a different category. So it's kind of, we either increase the category, let's say we want to grant exemptions for people who up to $40,000 or something. We can go up to whatever the state tells us we can in that overall limit. We can't go above 50 or something like that. Or we can try to do it that way with the Social Security income. I know I helped Devin out a couple times this past year with people coming in with these senior citizens exemption forms, and it was the Social Security income that was the moment where they're nervous about it because they don't really have any other income besides Social Security, and yet their Social Security was putting in they got a less of an exemption because of it. So it's something for the board to think about. We don't have to do anything immediately. We would do it this year, so they would be able to use it next year before the March 1st taxable status date, so that they can apply for their things. And that was just something that I considered the board may want to look at.
I wonder if we should try to do this sooner rather than later, so it just doesn't get put on the back burner and forgotten.
I agree with you, Tom. No, lots of things, suddenly something else pushes it out of the way.
I think we should have some discussion on maybe with Devin or on that subject, though. I mean, I'm all for the senior exemptions. However, we do have an aging population here in Wilmington, because everybody says we don't have a lot of younger people, and all of a sudden we take
Right.
all these households and we take $60,000 exemption, say if their Social Security is $30,000 a piece, and I don't know if that's realistic or not, maybe $20,000 a piece. And now all of a sudden the younger people in town are going to struggle, because now all it's going to raise somebody's taxes.
No, it does. Yeah, it gets
so
paid for by
it's like
else.
You help somebody, but yet you're going to hurt somebody else.
Yep.
So it's kind of a fine line that we have to watch. So I just kind of want to make sure that when we do an exemption for one, we're not going to totally, change that dynamic for another population.
I think to the extent that we have, let's say 150 pieces of property that will never get an exemption, senior citizenship or not, and their rates, if their values keep going up, you know what I mean? I'm looking at which population would be burdened most by giving the seniors a little bit more money. And right now in Wilmington, if you look at the total number of houses in the tax unit, we should talk to Devin about this for sure. You may find that a lot of them are these kinds of investment properties for which, okay, let them pay, let them make up the difference of
Right.
property tax.
Well,
It's not for the young families.
To me, it just seems like, say we raise the exemption $10,000.
Yep.
Would have a lot less impact than taking all of the Social Security income off of.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really. You're right though. We should probably give it to Devin and get his opinion on it too.
Baker, can you speak up a little louder?
You understand? I hate to do this, but should I kill the air conditioning?
No. Jerry, can you sit in the front?
And I'll try to yell a little more, but I know the air conditioning is also background.
Chris is friendly. You know Chris, right? You know Chris a long time.
There you go.
Just so everyone in the public knows, the current max income amount to get any kind of relief on your property taxes as a senior is still, it's only just over 33,000. So that's a pretty low income.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
I agree.
Yeah, and that's only a 5% exemption.
Yeah, I know. So if we wanted to go in that route by just increasing, people can get exemptions at you've got it there, but
45.
Yeah.
Rather than
30. Yeah, 45 or something like that. You could do that instead of the Social Security. It's just two approaches to getting some relief to the seniors.
I wonder how is this math calculated? These differentials, it starts, it goes up by 1,000, or I guess it goes up. Yeah, it goes up by 1,000, then 2,000, then 1,000 again.
I think this is from Essex County.
That's the way Essex County did it, but they say that that's what the board adopted
Okay.
in 23. So, however the board did it in 2023.
I think we got the papers from the county. Probably if you call real property, they could explain it.
Yeah, no, they gave us an email. They gave us what our rate is. So,
We got it from David Wakeman.
yeah, Dave Reiner probably helped us with that.
So are we all just kind of on the same page to just?
Well, what do you think we should, I think we should call Devin, talk to him a little bit about it.
Yeah.
And then see if we can either, as a board, agree that we should either increase the amount exempted kind of stuff, the income levels, or maybe Social Security. Depends on what Devin.
I think it'd probably be easier for him to calculate the increase in the 10,000 as opposed to him figuring out how much of people's income is their Social Security versus their other.
Yeah, I mean, when they go through the process, they come in with either their tax returns or Social Security statements and things like that. And they have to get that all verified. And it gets notarized and signed, and it needs to be filed. It's a bit. I met with a few of them this past winter. I wish it was simple for them to come into town hall and to reapply for this every year. The way New York makes us reapply for things. I don't know which would be simpler for them. For Devin, it would be he would be looking at it from. So what I did was I just gathered all their documents and made sure it was a fit for Devin and handed it to him so he could look at whether the income works. But I think you're right. We should ask him what he would probably find better. It was funny. There's all sorts of exemptions that New York State has, and there's a sort of an accessory dwelling long-term rental exemption. New York has got, and I think I sent a copy of that out, and nobody else in the county has adopted it. So we would be the first, the early adapters if we do any of that kind of exemptions going forward. But I'd rather do the tried and true ones first. So, any other questions about that?
Nope.
Okay.
Thank
So just to make sure I heard you correctly, or I remember correctly, you said that you think the max we can go to for income is 50,000. And at that point, it would be like a 5% valuation exempt.
I don't know exactly how it works. What I gave the board was a copy from the website. So when you go to the Office of Real Property Assessment, not just that, that's what the county does. I think it was like hopefully I gave you a screenshot.
I remember the,
Oh, this, see, that right there, yeah. I grabbed that from the website, which is the state website. I don't know what it means. And I can't remember what it says. So,
I don't remember the accessory dwelling one, but this one is the one that mentions 50.
yeah, no, that's the one from the state.
Oh, state, okay.
Yeah. No, I don't think I forwarded the accessory dwellings.
I think that would be worth at least thinking about. Accessory dwelling.
No, I asked if anyone else had done it, but they haven't, but we can look at it. I'll be happy to give you what information I have on that, and you can mull it over too. Okay, so I did say I would vamp on the bed tax stuff. So one of the things Essex County has done, and we've all seen it, it's that guidance document that they gave in 2023. I had wrongly thought that they would have done this by a local law, which would have been a binding law on the board, and then all the towns inside the board who received bed tax money. And there was no local law ever filed. So I thought to myself, it's a guidance document. It's not really binding on us. But what they did was they did it by resolution. So they passed a resolution in March of 2023, adopting that as the guidance document, as their policy for what they want us to do with bed tax money. So it's not as good as a local law, and that's what I would suggest the county do. But in the meantime, that means that they have agreed unanimously as a board in 2023 that we will be bound by or guided by the guidance document. And at the end of which says any money left over should be put into a reserve for future appropriations. So I met with the county manager a week or so ago, asked him about it. And there are a number of things we can do. Here, this is the way I put it. Not sure I'm fair to Wilmington, but if we put away money in Wilmington towards a capital project, there's a good chance that it just stays there and the capital project doesn't quite get done. So we budget for $80,000 of bed tax money. We get 120, so there's an extra 40 that's left over at the end of the year. And that's supposed to go into a reserve for some capital project. I suggested to the manager that what Wilmington could use is ways in which applying that during the year towards operating ongoing costs, instead of us sitting there putting it in unless we have a project. Apparently we could probably put money away towards the sidewalk repair on Bowman Lane to the beach and use bed tax money for that. But in the meantime, we'd rather see the developer, the Owasso Club, First Columbia, actually put in a sidewalk before the town takes it over as a town road. And someday we'll get to that. That's what I've asked for a number of times with them, and someday they'll probably want to finish their project and we'll seek a road dedication. So us putting money away from that would be, I don't know why, because we've been trying to get the developer to pay that anyway. So I talked to him about what we can do, and this is along the lines of what Tim has always talked about with the hours, is that we could probably set up a budget line for events and then allocate under that a PS line for wages and apply it and subtract that from the Parks Department for what we can account for anybody in town who's working for an event. So the event tax could pay that part of the wage going forward if we have the records right. The other thing that we could probably look at is giving our ambulance money from bed tax for whenever they are paying for coverage and wages and expenses for events in town. Anything that's kind of tourism related, so that we could reimburse them from the bed tax money, which would help lower their tax rate from the general tax fund as well. And then the other one I talked about was, I think we could probably make an argument if we set up a reserve account for the homestead housing, because the town is retaining, I'm sorry, I'm going dry here. Because the town's retaining 8 acres, we could, and that's for the benefit of the public and tourists, we could put away money in from bed tax into an account for that to help pay for the initial planning costs, the right of way, and things like that for the future development of that 8 acres. So these are suggestions that I've sort of floated by the county, because many of the towns just take their money and bank it, and they'll buy playground equipment or something like that. But they often don't have the same challenge we have, which is what to do with the money left over after we've spent it on the things that we typically spend our bed tax money. So that's my update on the bed tax. So, any question? Right.
So if we created a reserve account for that money, it doesn't have to have a specific earmark, like has to be used at the youth center or has to be used at the beach. Why can't we just create a reserve account, and when a project comes up, whether it be the internet or something at the beach or sidewalk, that's when we go to that reserve account? Why do we have to have an earmark for a certain project when we have, I mean, every meeting it seems like, oh, we have a $1,000 that we spend a year on, or $1,000 that we spend it there. I just don't know why we'd want to lock it into a certain item when we could just create a reserve account for capital projects and not put a specific project on it, that when we have something come up, that's when we use it.
Is that what we did? I mean, certain monies have been put away from previous bed tax years.
Well, so the 100,000 that Roy put away one year, he said this money is to be put into the certain fund, which would be used for park youth center improvements. But at the end of every year, we say, all right, if we budget 80 at the beginning of the year and we find out that we took $110,000 in, at that time, we say, all right, we have $30,000 that we haven't used for the year. Maybe we've already used 10,000 of it, so we have 20,000 left. With that 20,000, we can just say, all right, we're going to take this leftover 20,000, put it in a reserve account for use, just like the county said, for use in future years. It doesn't have to go into our fund balance. We can always set whatever money is left in that aside for any type of project, and basically just use it as fund balance for.
Just a way of separating it.
Exactly. And I think Tim's brought this up, and I actually agree with him on that multiple times, and just take that money and put it in there. At least that way we know what this money is for, and it's not part of the taxpayer money. It's money that was used for this. And all right, we saved 10,000 this year. Next year we save 20,000. The following year we only save 5,000. but we know over the course of those 3 years, we have $35,000 to spend on whatever projects come up.
I know I have brought this up a couple different times. I have pointed to that language a couple different times at these meetings, like that money. I know I've mentioned it at least twice that we should be putting that money aside. And I mentioned it budget season. I think I mentioned it at the beginning of the year. Like, this isn't news to us. I just think it's now we're being held to the plane with it, or however the terminology is. You know, we're supposed to be. We should have been doing it.
Well, I mean, Roy put away 100,000. Right?
But there are years, and I'm going to email Nicole again, because there are years that we don't know how much we got and how much we spent. And we should know, and that I totally agree with there, and that money should be put aside from the rest of the general fund.
But now it's kind of too late because those years' budgets are closed, books are closed. It's in our fund balance.
And that wasn't Nicole's fault. That was the program she was using.
Well, and the board has never directed her to do anything different with it either.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's sitting in fund balance, and we can obviously make a resolution to put it, you know, call it, hey, look, this 80,000 is now pay tax money, and should go to this account. That's fine. I really don't like when we are so specific about it has to go for this particular project, but I think for the homestead housing, where I had a meeting with them a week ago, and I'm trying to get them. We're working on budgets, and so the preliminary hard costs are somewhere like $300,000, and they want to see the town make some sort of show of a reserve fund commitment towards those capital costs too. And so that would be a specific reserve fund for that.
Well, that's something different. And we could say as a board, all right, we're going to take $10,000 a year and put it into that account.
Right. Yeah. But that one, they want to see us put some funds.
I've got two big picture questions.
Sure.
Does anyone at the county board of supervisors, I know I've brought this up at least 2 or 3 times, like North Elba, and they do get, I think, 10 times the amount we get, basically. I think we're second as far as bed tax returns, but they're far and away first. They seem to spend theirs on things that have nothing to do with tourism. Like they replaced like a boiler at a private school in Saranac Lake. Like, there are a lot of things that, they've really just given direct cash payments to their volunteer firefighters, volunteer EMT service. So does anyone ever bring that up? That like we spend a lot of time talking about what we can and can't spend this money on, but they don't.
Maybe they're not worrying about it. They're just gonna wait until they're told different.
Well, so,
We actually have.
Like, apparently they are, yeah.
but see, it was because of North Elba's willingness to throw money at, throw this bed tax money at like putting in a boiler at a private school and stuff like that, that the county revised the rules and created this payment system towards us in 2023. It was their reaction to the fact that North Elba's sitting there throwing the money away while the rest of us were getting nothing for it. Each year we're supposed to submit a report to the county that shows what we did, what we spent that money on. And the email from the North Elba supervisor was, I know you're all waiting for mine to see what it is that we did. Because they get 78% of the bed tax. So out of that, let's say we get $2 million in a quarter, and they get 78% of it goes back to them. Of the everybody else gets. So there's some towns like Newcomb. Now Newcomb, I read their AFR annual financial report. They had $7 million in revenue. There are 5,300 people in that town, and that's because of the way the state pays them for the state land. $7 million. What do they need the bed tax money for? They just put it in the savings account. That's what they do, and they buy a piece of playground equipment. So they don't generate any bed tax money themselves, and so it's not really a good system. But you know, it was passed a couple years ago, and I expect the county will go back and look at it. And it's interesting, Tim, right? So yeah, Wilmington was and still is the second place generator of bed tax, but we're losing ground to Jay and to Screw. Screw will overtake us soon, and then Jay's catching up. And
My other question, we're halfway through the year. Is it looking like our bed tax revenues will be similar to what they were last year, or is it looking like they'll be less?
I think when we get the report for the end of June, the beginning, I think it looks the same. I think if you look at that line will show us exactly where it is. I mean, we had a check, that's the other thing, right? So people file their bed tax returns are due April 20th. And it's for January, February, or something like that, right? January, February, and March. The returns are filed April 20th. The county gets money, and we got the check June from them. It was $33,000 for us for that quarter, which is a little more than the previous year. But they also showed that the trend in receipts, and it's probably because of the eclipse, but there's like a 7% reduction in April of this year. But last year was the eclipse probably, so who knows? They'll have to adjust for it. But we're slightly more, generally speaking, in the county.
Do we have to do budget resolutions? At the last meeting, we talked about using bed tax to pay for beach equipment and and sealant on the basketball and tennis courts.
What we'll have to do is when we look at where the budget is, right now, the beach doesn't need a budget amendment because we put in $22,000 of bed tax money to cover basically the lifeguard services and for some expenses like boats and things. Now, last year we didn't make the $22,000 because they all left at the end of August or something. So we didn't spend as much in lifeguard wages as we budgeted. So we kept that flat. And right now, I have a list of potential lifeguard candidates who are going to be showing up here Friday to sign in and things like that. And we're trying to open the beach on Monday. And I'll give a report if we need to adjust that because we didn't budget enough. I'll see that. Now, parks is a bit of we have to have a real look at where we're at because the beach sealant and things like that, we could probably make money. But I mean, the sealant for the tennis courts, yeah, I'm going to speak. But I
think we agreed that we agreed on it, but
yeah, but that's what'll happen. Is that once we look at the budget and if that line's got a budget deficit, we'll have to fund it with something and we'll fund it with the big tax money. Anybody got anything else?
I did go talk to Kelleher from Roost.
Yep.
And it was a very positive meeting. I'm glad I went and talked to him. And I did tell him that the amount that the town spends on events is somewhat controversial, and Roost has a budget literally twice the size of the town of Wilmington. So to me, it makes sense that Roost will kick in to help pay for these things. There wasn't any movement there. But I'm still glad I met with him.
Did he say we're already helping? Was that what his
He did. Yes, he did. Yep.
Okay.
We talked about their websites and what they're doing with the websites.
So last meeting, we had talked with John about kayaks and stuff, but we never actually sent a dollar amount or told him to go ahead and do that. If the beach is opening Monday, I mean, I think now would be the time to say, hey, let's spend $3,000 on kayaks or whatever we choose to
Well,
do.
I'm sorry to say, I talked to him about it today. We went to see we were a little late with the, getting to the person with the online pictures of the used kayaks. It had already been sold, so he's gonna send, somebody gonna go up to, Sam's Club and try to pick up 3. I've got, shoot for under $1,000 for right now. And the board can decide on what's more appropriate. So I left that with
Well,
them.
I'm just saying, I think we could make that decision tonight between us and say, hey, we're willing to spend 1,000 or 1,500 or whatever and get this behind us. So he hasn't picked them up yet, so he knows what he has to spend. And
Okay,
I agree.
so would you like to make the motion, Tim?
You want to-
do you want
I'll make
I'll,
the- Go ahead.
let's set a, what does everybody feel for a dollar amount?
Laura, you got-
I don't have any idea how much that they go for. I thought that those ones were a pretty good deal, but I don't anticipate that's a reasonable. Like, I don't know, or $500 in a kayak? I don't know. Huh?
For a good one.
Does anyone here kayak?
I spent $400 on that.
I think so, so I think they're like $300.
Do you want
Beg
to
your pardon, what?
I think they're like-
What do we want to say $1,500, not to exceed $1,500?
That sounds okay.
That's going to be either 3 or 4.
Yes.
So I'll make that resolution to purchase kayaks, not to exceed $1,500.
Is there a second?
I think 2, because do we need like new paddles, or do they come with a paddle?
Usually,
They do, okay, okay,
like the ones at Sam's.
okay, great. I'll second that.
Question, do we also provide like life vests and things like that for people who
Yes.
use their kayaks? So we have to purchase those in the
We
Oh,
have,
we have those. It's our kayak collection, it's long in the tooth. And our canoes are the next. John's looking at getting the kayaks, at least having a few ready for the season. Canoes will be, those are harder questions, they're more expensive.
Question on this resolution, is that above and beyond the $1,000 that you told him to go get?
Well, I'll tell him
Or
tomorrow,
is this-
I'll tell him tomorrow that he's got to authorize up to 1,500.
it's not above and beyond,
So
it's
it's not,
1,500
it's
total.
1,500 per.
No.
Stand by. Probably first, and
How many, how often are these used?
They're rented all summer long.
I guess what I'm asking is,
no, we may need more.
there's not a lot of kayaks.
Yeah, we're doing an initial, we don't have any. So we'd like to get the beach open with a few kayaks. And that's kind of the discussion I was having with John.
But, so if you're gonna do this,
Well, some-
$500 each, I'm just running my mouth here.
Okay. Well, that's good comments. Randy, you're next.
Is there any kind of plan to repair or replace the light poles down into the beach?
Well,
They look really bad.
so that's been sort of a discussion between First Columbia, the Bettys, and
Favor, I hate to interrupt you,
Go.
but before we move on to that, can we work on the resolution?
oh
before
yeah,
we
you're
get
right.
off topic?
You're right. Pardon me.
Yeah.
I'm in the middle of the resolution. Sorry, Randy. So no other questions. Roll call, please.
Tim,
I did just want to, this would be a bed tax, you would spend bed tax on this.
Fine.
Tim,
All beach stuff is bed tax. To me.
Okay, yes,
Darren,
Yes.
Laura,
Yes,
David,
Yes.
Carrie,
Thank you, Randy. I'm sorry. So yeah, we had a. So those were built by the town and put up, and they're wood and they're lousy. And so my discussion with them was sort of a punch list on what the town will do to accept the dedication of Bowman Lane. And I put on the list that they replace those with real non-biodegradable lamp posts.
with metal.
Something, yeah. And that's, I'd say, there are two things. There's a fence. I wanted to discuss that with them, a fence that runs between their lot and the bathhouse. The sidewalks all need to get repaired. There's going to be, and then those lampposts are a disaster. So the town is holding money from 2010, so it's not enough anymore. It was a lot more money then, but we're still holding money in escrow to get that, finished off and things before we do the road dedication. The other question would be the town road, right? It would become a town road, Bowman Lane, and then we have the town park there, which is town property too. Should we push the road dedication a little further down or whatever? It would be how it gets laid out by the surveyor, and then the deed would be drawn up, and then the highway superintendent would have to review and approve it, and then it goes to the town board. And if the town board approves and accepts it, then we can release the funds.
So is there any kind of like a time frame, say just two broken light bulbs? And they do it,
We've been repairing them as needed.
like tip in and.
Yeah, we understand it.
Lights that are just dangling,
Yeah, so we'll have to complain to that. That they need to repair it
at
themselves.
least repair them.
Yeah, if they own it, I agree with them.
I mean, I will say that, a few months ago, we talked about how more and more and more and more has been put on the Parks Department's shoulders the past 2 decades. And then things get they don't get forgotten, but they're not taken care of because there simply aren't enough hours in the week or in the month to do that. So that's a perfect example of
Right.
things that would have been done had we not been putting more and more on our Parks Department.
Great, yeah, me too.
Hold on, who's first? I was looking down.
But,
Good.
so, whose liability is it if that light post hits somebody or comes down on somebody's car?
Right now, they're the owners of it.
That'd be first one.
Mhm.
As soon as you assume it, then it's ours.
Exactly. Good.
No, that was my question.
Thanks.
So can you fix it?
Well, what we do is we go in and try to. We have to replace them all. They're all rotten.
No, but I'm saying it's their responsibility.
Yeah, but but you can't get how to. It looks as if the town is responsible for it because it looks like a town road. So people who think the situation is dangerous call to the town thinking it's the town. So I don't think the attitude that belongs to your landowner kind of stuff from the town is sometimes we can do something quickly and fix it. Other times we can't. It's a kind of a judgment call about whether we should get involved. But those are people living in town, people walking down there, things like that. So we look at it and say, this is something actually we could do probably quickly and then complain about it. But if it's a larger thing, no. So we don't actually expose ourselves to that kind of, you're the one fixing it, now it's your problem. We're not doing structural fixes. Exactly. We're just trying to, whatever the phone call is. So now, I sent out an email to everybody about the youth program. I'm going to hand this out to everybody first.
Thank you.
So this is a list of the people who, sort of an overview of what the youth program is and the proposed staff. The situation with the number of kids. We have 21 full-time Wilmington residents who would like to be in this program. There are other kids who would like to join, so we have another 5 more kids who've expressed an interest in joining the summer program. I the relationship between the town and the youth center committee has been, kind of, the town would be kind of like the back waiter, where the youth committee would be the front waiter. If you look at the old service technique, the back waiter is somebody back there getting the dishes to the front waiter. The front waiter delivers them to the kids. Last year, I don't know what the heck you got, what happened in 23 or anything like that. But last year, what we managed to do was move. I don't think we budgeted at all for paying for any of the youth program. And we managed to move $10,000 from the beach budget, which was from the property tax general fund kind of levy. And we moved that to the youth program. And we hired 2 young people and to do 2-day-a-week program with X number of kids. This year, if we stayed at 7, 8 kids and things like that, we might do that sort of thing again. But I've always been personally uneasy about the town just playing the role of the back waiter, where we're paying the wages and things like that. Because I know that the New York State summer camp requirements are from the Department of Health and things like that are things that we hadn't done. And then this year, for whatever reason, we're now looking at 25, 26 kids. And the youth center would like a 3-day program. I personally would like it if the town could give it to them. So the town needs to move and restructure itself to going back to the town has a youth program budget, and the town would be responsible for staffing, for getting all the permits that are needed by the Department of Health, for complying with all the laws required for people being certified, having background checks done, having the right kind of certifications. And so I started working on a budget worksheet. I emailed the board saying, we have 25 kids. I have no way of telling kids no. Based on what? We can only take 10. We can only take 15. Do you live in Wilmington? Do you not live in Wilmington? I'm not comfortable doing any of that stuff. So I'd like the board to help out with where we go with this program. I have some ideas. Chris and I have worked on some thoughts here, but I certainly think that it would be good for the town to get back into the business of having a youth program as part of its regular routine budget process. It went away because maybe there's a time when there's so few kids where it becomes kind of a challenge for us. But if we have 25 kids who are interested in the program and they live in the community, I think it's one of the first things we should do is to get a program like this going. And if we're going to do it, then we, of course, will have to comply with the law completely. So anybody got any thoughts on this?
Can I ask the hours?
Yeah.
Why the hours are these hours? Is that what it has been?
That was actually one of my questions too, because I've never heard of a youth program 9 hours a day. They're normally like 5 and 6 hours.
The
7:30 in the morning.
Yeah. Well, Camp Placid's 8 to 4, but
That was the proposal. Because she wanted to do a staggered employees for the day. Staggered day coming in and out. I think she wanted to. So I just wrote down what we had received as the proposed hours.
What's your thoughts on that, Amy?
That was kind of the idea that we stagger them a little bit that way. There's not one on there, but people that are going to work are able to walk to the hospital. And then also, maybe somebody wants to work. That person could work, maybe have I think 7:30 to 4 instead, and 8 instead of 4:30. Maybe 5. We don't have to do that. That's what I was thinking. Because that's a long day to do a lot. Plus, you're not really getting lunches. You're not getting late. You just didn't want to have a long day. I think we had a hard with parents getting their kids there before. So that was my thought. We're going to have more staff this year because there's more kids. My concern is, maybe somebody's sick. Now you have one, and basically have to cancel. You can't have it over on that day. The safety issue having to do with that. So my thought was, maybe if they got there at 7:30, they had 15 minutes to prepare whatever. 15 minutes before the kids get dropped off, if you get dropped off at 7:45, so like 9 or something. And then we start their day at 9 o'clock and then return back at 3:30. They can get cleaned up. Somebody leaves at 4. The next person helps clean up, helps, send the kids off, get picked up, and then that last person will sweep, wipe the counters down. Should be employed there for that last one. That's all I was thinking. It'll help out with parents like dropping off. Then more kids can go on. I didn't really have a big issue with it last year, but
What are the requirements? Like, how many children can each counselor have? Like,
that is a question for.
okay.
It goes by age. So it's super ages. So the younger the age, you can only have a certain amount of kids per one provider. I think it's like for 5 to 6 year olds, you have, I think it's 6 of them, 6 or 7, ratio to 1 provider. The other one was 7 to 8 year olds. I think it's 7 or 8 children to 1. But it changes. There's stipulations or changes if you go to the beach, water activities, hiking activities. There's a different ratio for each.
So I think what they told me was 8 for going into the rooms. Maybe there was like things like that. Having enough staff there is, for just for vacation.
So 24.
We have 21 kids that are in Wilmington that month.
Right.
With the 2 staff. We did have a few extra kids who've been 3 have been in the program in the past. Both years that we've had it. But now they moved to the private house and they rent it. They still want them. They go to school in Wilmington. They go to tuition. There was one kid that lives in Lake Placid.
His grandmother was in
His mother's boyfriend lives in Wilmington. They do own a property. I don't think there's house or anything. That we're interested because she's here. She sleeps here. And wanted to use our program. And that was just my plan to establish it. I thought that would help so that they're not here 9 hours.
So
just, the first year, I think people on the previous boards weren't sure that this program would have legs and would last. And the first year was 1 day, and the second year was 2 days, and it's just grown and grown. And I mean, that's a tribute to the volunteers that have built this program. And the goal is for it to continue to grow.
Yes, so that's what I asked for when we first started. And I said, it's going to start small. Just give us a chance. It'll get bigger. Hopefully get better. Well, we're not having any. every year, it's almost double this much.
So the question is, when you fill out for a permit from the Department of Health to run the summer program, you need a camp director, you need a medical director. My idea for this year is that I would be the camp director, and that we would engage Carissa, if it works, to be the medical director. Okay, so when we fill out that application, I would be the camp director and Carissa would be the medical director. We need those positions identified and submitted in the application for a permit. And so that's fine with me. I've worked in camps before. I'm okay with this. And it seems to allow us to put together, you'll have at least 3.5, including me, adults up there dealing with the ratio. Right now, if it's 25, it's 8.223, whatever, kids per adult. And I don't think that's enough. I won't be, I wouldn't ask for a camp director fee. I just, whatever, I'm on the clock. So that would save the town budget headache trying to hire somebody to be a camp director. Who could step in and fill in that kind of responsibility. To me, this is where we've metamorphosized into something greater than that before. When we had 25 kids, and we're having a program, and they want us to follow the law, we're going to have to fill out these forms. And right now, the town would be the one filling out the form, being the camp director, unless you have some other idea about that. Go ahead, Tim.
Is this a camp?
I think it's a summer program like that. We'd have to follow through like Camp Placid did.
It's a camp, okay.
Yeah.
I think of a camp as having an overnight component.
No, it's a day camp. So to me, what happened this year is Lake Placid Central School fubbed it. And ignored everything. And I don't know whether Camp Placid could ever take any more kids. It doesn't matter. We have 25 kids in the town. There are no neighboring towns that might be able to help. And we have a chance to at least get something working this summer. And then the board can sit down and think about next year hiring a camp director or whatever it is. And getting back into that, because the way I look at it, is the kids don't need to be caught in a discussion about whether North Elba's getting enough money from us. The kids got caught into this discussion with the school that it's between North Elba and the town of Wilmington, when most of these kids are in the town of in Lake Placid Central School District. They blew it this year. And the board knows they blew it. And they probably won't be doing that again, I hope. But anybody who's in the Lake Placid Central School District, whether in Wilmington or not, should automatically be able to get into Camp Placid to join their friends if that's what they do. Just think about what is it for the kids. So while we're in town here, we have a chance to do it. And I'm supportive of this idea, and I'm willing to recommend that we go forward with trying to make this plan work as best we can this summer. And this is kind of the idea I had. We'll have to get on our horse here because I've got to get the application in. I've got to get
To the county.
Department of Health.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
Because they have to come in.
When is this program supposed to start?
July 8th.
Bit of a rush, isn't it?
Hmm? Yes. Nothing like crisis management. I don't want to plan ahead. I like to face it when it comes up.
Do we charge anything?
No, we don't have a charge. They don't charge at Camp Placid. I just want, this is what Camp Placid got into this. I think they made a mess because they started following a policy. The policy was if you live in North Elba or you work in North Elba, you can go to that camp. Now, they ignored the fact that for tens of years, decades, nobody blinked an eye from some kid from Wilmington who wanted to go in because they were in the Lake Placid Central School District. They didn't look at it, they didn't they say, okay, fine. But this year, somebody adopted a policy, and they're following their policy. So if we adopt a policy, we're going to say, we're going to charge $150 for a camp fee. Well, if they can't pay it, then what are we supposed to do about that? It's kind of the thing that gets in with the ski program. And then by who qualifies? Is it kids whose grandparents are up here? So here I am up here for the summertime, and my kids are, grandkids are up here, and I want to put them in the program. We have a person who came in looking to put the kids in for further being, meeting these facts. Here my grandkids are up for the summer. Do you mind if we put them in the program? And I'm going to say no, because sorry, you're not in the Lake Placid Central School District. You're not a full-time employee. I mean, once you get into that kind of mess, I really, we could do it on, Mr. Policy, whatever. But to me, I'm looking at it from the point of view, if the kids are here, they have to follow the rules. I
think you have to look at sometimes that with a little bit of, I hate to put it this way, but common sense.
Right.
I mean, obviously, if we have a group of 8 kids coming from Keysville to the program, we can say, we're sorry, this is not going to work.
I agree.
If the kids are living in Wilmington for the summer, then they have a legitimate case to go there. So, I mean, I understand what you're saying, but there is a certain level of responsibility as the town to be like, if the kids have a tie to Wilmington, obviously they're willing to go.
Right.
If it's just a family looking for free daycare, then there is not. We don't have an obligation to take them.
No, I agree.
And that's why I mentioned if there's any type of fee, because any camp you go to, I mean, even our ski program, we added a small fee to, but I mean, you do a 4-day program at a out of 80K lodge and put any of your kids in it, they're charging $300 or $400. This is a 6-week program, 3 days a week, 9 hours a day. So, I mean, I wouldn't think that it's unrealistic to say, hey, it's $10 a week to send your kid there is an unrealistic fee.
Question.
The money problem would, so if we stick more to town residents, children town residents, they're paying taxes towards it. So that would contribute towards the fee of being at the program. But I do see what you're saying, out of town kids come in.
I mean, but we do it for the ski program.
Did we ultimately do the fee, or did we not do the fee for the ski
So
program?
last year was the first year we did the fee, was sort of like a vote in the committee, to try to get the kids to attend more. So we would have some kids that maybe did attend as often, get more attendance out there. In the end, we had somebody who paid for all of the kids. And the kids, the families didn't have to pay. We had the bank, right here by the another guy who just lived here, he had a house here. So we did try that just to get more attendance.
But their rush to generosity defeated the whole purpose.
Well, I'm just saying, I mean, the price of daycare now, you send your kid to daycare 1 day a week, it's more than $60.
No,
and this, it's not being unfair to any resident. It's like you want to send your kid to this program where they're going to be interacting and doing activities and crafts. It's not a lot to ask.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Sil.
Our kids,
It's always been.
they should have the benefits of something. We have nothing here in town for kids. In this summer program, 8 weeks, 6 weeks. Not too much to ask.
I don't think it is either, Seal, but I'm just saying if we're putting $25,000 into this program to have, to send your kid to it for $100 for the summer, I mean, I don't see where that's.
Is it costing $25,000? I'm just curious.
It's going to be pretty close. I mean, I don't know exactly, but you take 6 weeks of salaries for 8 hours a day for 3 people. I bet you it's gonna be pretty close to that without having a calculator right here now.
Well, I have a little budget worksheet, but
More like 16,000, right?
right now, but we don't have a camp director, and we're not really paying the medical director what they should be getting.
We've always had it.
Line item.
The last one was Teresa. She was a full-time, she had benefits.
Yeah,
Had
yeah.
everything. We're not doing that.
Teresa never had benefits and she was never full-time.
She was full-time and then did the.
She never had benefits or anything. She was only considered 20 hours a week.
So that was, I mean, we always had, I mean, when I was a kid, June Hooper was up there at the youth center, just there. She was there from 11 to 9 o'clock, just there. She didn't have any responsibility for us. She was there, the place was open, and the wood stove was on, and
Hard time you give.
and Boise was there, and, you know, there were a lot of people there. It's been going on for 50 years.
There's always been something for kids.
Yeah.
So last couple of years.
I agree.
So to go back,
Yeah.
you mentioned, what if you can't afford it? Joyce's camp, they charge like $50 for the week or whatever, which is very low. But in all honesty, they give out most of the scholarships.
Yeah, I mean, we could, the scenario that I sort of listened to Darren about is the person who figures out that it's not charging in Wilmington. Here we go, let's get them down there. So we'll have to set up some rules. About,
It later, well,
but, okay, so Wilmington residents, since we're starting at noon, would be okay. I think what happened was when the whole Lake Placid and the Lake Placid school thing was they changed the rules without telling anybody that they're going to do it. Plus, the school district is where they're staying. They're getting schools providing them lunches, providing them buses, and all sorts of fun things like that. And so that was, just to exclude Wilmington kids who are at the schools just seemed wrong, just because they're not North Elba. But for our program, I could see us being North Elba, yeah.
So
Not North Elba.
Out
Wilmington.
of curiosity,
What's
due
that?
to that controversy, but did they charge for their program?
No.
No.
So
It's
this
a
is,
$100,000 program.
yeah,
So the other thing is we could ask for, we're always asking for like donations for the Christmas party. We're asking for things like that. There could be scholarships or something for this. We're always willing to raise the money. We have to find ways to raise money because we can't just go somewhere. But I mean, I think the program is going to continue to grow, but the goal is to get the kids out of the house, off the Xboxes, off the iPads, into the library, at the beach. I don't really want to say that they less the kids. I just,
well, we
I
have some,
don't want to separate.
I understand, that's okay,
All we need is just staffing. We want
Yeah,
more
that's
and
what I
more
mean,
kids,
and
but we just need staff.
So the last couple of years has been.
but we don't want them all busting in from Keithsville.
And those people that are not living in Wilmington. And so unless.
I'll get Joe, I said next.
So they are not.
I don't think
As of
that's
right
fair.
now.
As of right now, we don't have enough employees.
Right.
Are you connected with Nancy's County Summer Youth Program, where we have kids that are income eligible that live in Wilmington, that are placed in jobs and positions in the community?
No, but I did bring that to the town board 2 years ago, that they pay the employees to come.
We get some money from, yeah.
From ACAP?
Yeah, we're using it right now for our boat boys. Boat guys.
They hire them, they pay them, if their insurance, if their.
Right, I used to run that program for them, so it's a pretty good program for the counties.
Yeah, I mean, we used to get kids that helped John too, and that's what they were working. But John was their boss. So it would be the same thing. I did bring that up a couple years ago, but I don't know if you have for that.
If you could find a connection like that, we can visit it.
Isn't there a youth center line item in our budget, but it's very small?
I think we negated it.
I hope I put 10,000 down.
Well, we took away the elderly.
Yeah.
Put on the bus
And
driver.
that was actually not for the youth center. It's not, it wasn't for like us to use. that was put in there for staffing. So when Ashton would go and sit in the park and keep the place open in the winter so people can use the skates, that money came out of that instead of the parks department. When he was sitting at one place in the parking lot, so the kids were skiing back before we took over the program, they were paying him out of that. So that's what that was. It wasn't technically like the town board was giving him essential money. There is no money that.
Yes, that's it.
We get the money out of the bottles, that's what the.
That's for the
Whatever we fundraise.
7,000.
That's where that 6,000 comes from. It's for employees, it's for paying.
Doesn't it also pay for the ski tickets?
Is that what it says? 7,000 PS?
No, no,
Uh,
separate.
fees.
Yeah, I don't know if it's
Fees.
coming, I don't know if it's coming at that, but,
It should be.
it wasn't last year because it was paid for the year before, yes. So the idea when I started this was to eventually, if this did take off,